nice and warm and cozy at home. I want to just do a special welcome to new members. Jenny Merritt, Susan Thornton-Smith, Francie Henny, and Estelle Dreyer have joined us this month. So, and we really look forward to meeting you in person sometime soon. Okay, so this evening we've got Sonja Frenz, who is a wonderful artist and art teacher from Durbanville. She's going to tell us all about backgrounds, color palettes, and shadows to create unity, harmony, and variety in your painting. I'd just like to say thank you also to Elizabeth, who is a student of Sonja, who is helping with the admin of this evening to make it all run smoothly. And of course, Lizzie, who's controlling everything. A huge thank you to Sonja for all the work that you put into this presentation tonight. Please feel free to, as I said earlier, please feel free to ask questions, either using the chat function or by sending me a WhatsApp to 0723221745, and I will ask Sonja at the end. We're all muted so that to help decrease the background, any noises, because these microphones are so sensitive. And then also, if you'd like to get hold of Sonja after the talk, her information was either in our newsletter in the palette or on the email that was sent out. It's got all her information of how to contact her. Okay, over to you, Sonja.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I'm very happy to be here, and I was very excited to do this talk. I think being in lockdown, you can become quite bored. So, so I thought, no, this is going to be an opportunity to study something that I really enjoy doing. I do like doing still lifes and portraits and landscapes, not portraits that much, but the rest I do like. So what I thought of doing, and if Elizabeth can just share the first one there for us, I'm going to focus on still lifes. I thought of doing portraits as well, but there's just not enough time. And I think what applies to the still lifes will also apply to the portraits as well. So I've made some videos and some clips so that you can see how I approach it. Because it's quite difficult to do it the way that we set up at the moment. So I did some video clips. So we'll start by just showing you how to set up a still life, where you are in control of the still life and how you start doing it. So I think if Elizabeth can just start with the first video clip, that will help. And I think the first 3 video clips, if that is fine, then we can watch how I normally would do a still life.
This is how I would normally set up my still life. I would use colorful backgrounds, such as hardboards that I've painted, or cardboard, or even old paintings. The light from the one side helps a lot to create some atmosphere and drama in the background. And you can see it makes very interesting shadow shapes there, so that your background is not boring. Now, if you look at the little still life that I did at a workshop on the right hand side, she set up the still life with a colorful background with cardboard, but the idea is not that you paint it in one color. So you would vary the color in temperatures in the background. You know, there's blue, greens, and then the normal blue, and then a purpley blue in the background. And also there's a variety of strokes, brush strokes in the background, so that it will not become boring. So that's one of the things that you have to take into consideration when you paint your backgrounds. It's not just the color, but also how you paint it, so that it doesn't form a halo behind your subject, so that it's integrated with your subject as well.
Okay, so the next video will start just now. So when I set up still lifes for class purposes, this is what I would normally do. I would choose a background, and this is the second, I think this is the third one.
Get this still life. Now this still life was done alla prima, and it was set up in a very busy, on a very busy table. And I had some pre-prepared canvases there, and it happened to actually work with a color scheme. So I left some of the pre-prepared canvas colors to show through. Now I'm going to show you what a pre-prepared canvas look like typically. So this one is an example of a prepared canvas without knowing what the subject is going to be. And I've used some texture paste and gesso at the background, and then on top of that I did a thin oil base with burnt sienna and ultramarine and white and some spattering. Now this has to be dry or almost dry or totally dry when you start painting on top of that, so if you use a contrasting color that it won't mix into it. Now you can see if I match it to my flowers here, this could actually work very well on this background, and you create a nice harmonious kind of color scheme there. Now I could go to the red with my protea, and that will also look very nice. Okay. And even with these two colors, if I look at this one, the pink and the blue grays, there you have it. Okay, those three.
Okay, Elizabeth, if you can show us the second video, no, the third video, sorry. There's another video, a shorter video clip of the still life set up next to the window. Yes, that one, thank you.
This is one of my favorite spots in my studio, next to the window where I sit and read. So I've set up this little still life of roses next to the window to make use of the natural light. Now you can see the background is quite complicated. So when I paint it, I need to crop it firstly, and then also simplify the background and leave out some of the noise that is there. Now with a background like this, I would normally choose the colors that are in the still life itself and say make a mix of the pinks and the greens to create a neutral color to use in the background. And the trick here is not to see the background as something separate, but as part of your still life.
Thank you, Elizabeth. If you can show us perhaps the one, the photograph of a setup that I've done in a classroom setup. It's one of the beetroot. Yes, that one. Now, this is typically a setup that you will encounter in a classroom setup. The background is quite complicated. So in this, you have to simplify it by ignoring this background here. And then what I will do is I'll choose the colors that are in the still life itself, like those purples and the blues, and even mix it with the opposite color to create a neutral in the background. There is one other option that you've seen in the previous video, where I've created backgrounds before I start with the still life. And if you can show the next photograph, the one with the still life and the background, yes, that one. Now, what I've done here is I've done some spattering on the background here to actually complement the still life that was set up. So it's just thinned paint with turpentine, and you have to keep it thin because otherwise it's too wet to work on top of it. And what I would also say is stay away from using white, because white actually takes a long time to dry. And I find that if you just work with a thin layer, and if you want to, you can also use acrylics, because acrylics dry a lot quicker. And I think we can go to the next slide as well, the next photograph as well, the one with the lemons. Now, this background, what I've done here is I've used some old paint that I had left on my palette, and I scraped it on top of that and did some spattering at the back and with a roller there as well. And I have a few of these canvases in my studio, and then what I would do is when I do still lifes or any other setup, I've actually used it for landscapes and for portraits. I would select one of those canvases to then use as a background for a still life. Here you can see the lemons on the left-hand side, and it actually also works very well with that background. And go to the next slide, please. One with the, yeah, is that one. Actually, the previous one. Now, if you have a look at the proteus here, it was done on a linen canvas, and I really like the linen. So I wanted that to show through. And I started off by doing an underpainting in, I think it was raw umber, and I sometimes mix it with ultramarine. So I would start my drawing with that dark colors, and then I would wipe out the actual subject so that I can then paint on top of that. And just to mention again, when you do paint on a darker background, say with that lemons, for instance, if you use yellows and things on a dark background, you have to actually mix the yellows with a opaque color to make it show up. Because yellows are semi-transparent, so it actually will show the background color if you don't make it opaque. So I just want to think if there's anything else I want to say about this specific one. No, I think that's fine. Okay, you can do the next one. Okay, okay, let me rather say the next video that we are going to watch is one on how I actually prepare a background like that, where I don't even know what the subject is going to be. So when you are in your studio and you don't know what to do that day, you can actually just play around on your canvases and create backgrounds to be able to use on your at the back of your still lifes as well. Okay, you can play the next video clip.
This is one of the ways that you can actually prepare your canvas. If you have leftover paint, you can use that. It's thinned down with a lot of turpentine. So let's just see what effect we can get with this. This brush might be too small, so I'm just changing to a bigger brush. And let's just see. And at this stage, the morph making is just random. I'm just playing around. I can use some of the opposite color as well by putting in the blues, but know where they come together, it's going to become more neutral. I actually don't have a plan with this, so I'm just playing and to see how that works like. See what comes out. Okay, I might start with little bits of bigger, lighter pieces in here. I might leave some of the background in the painting if it looks nice and it contributes. Otherwise, I will just use it as a layer to seal the white a bit. See, now it's already painted, so I can just see if this, for instance, can work with that. It can. See, then I can use that as a background already. But let's just play a little bit more. See what I can come up with if I mix those two together. It's your blue and your orange to get a neutral. So I almost get like a purpley grey kind of color that I actually like more than the vivid blue. So I think I'll mix some more of that. That is just a light blue with orange, which is the opposites. Now there's a warm version of it. And if I have more orange in the mix, and there's a cooler version of it if I put more blue in the mix. I actually like those colors. And remember, they are diluted. Just want to bring some of that color in here. And just drip pure turpentine on it, and it will actually in the end pull away and create nice little textures as it gets dry. I'll put it outside and see how quickly it dries to show you the effect that it has. So as I said, it doesn't always work, but it's fun to do, and you can do it with some of your paints that are left over. Yeah, just don't get it too dirty in the end. I think that already looks quite interesting. Now, you wouldn't have painted those colors in the background if the objects were already there, I think. So it already makes for an interesting foundation for your painting. I think that's enough. I'm not going to do too much so that in the end is the painting, and I get too precious about it, and I don't want to destroy any of it, because you must be willing to give some of it up if it's in the place where it's not going to work. All right, I think that is enough. Can't help myself. Just gonna see if I get some more light in this area here. Okay. A little bit more of a bright orange maybe. I do like the brighter orange, maybe mixed with a little bit of the yellow ochre. Yeah, I do like that. Even more orangey. If you use enough turpentine, it can actually spatter very nice. It has to be quite fluid. Oh, that I like. So this is now where it helps when you have someone to tell you, okay, now stop, that's enough. Because it's difficult to stop. Because now I'm enjoying it. Okay, but I don't want it to be too thick, so I think I'm going to put that outside and see how it dries and if it can actually work with some of my still life objects in the end. I mean, you can see that these colors can actually work really well. And even this one, maybe not this one so much, but definitely the hydrangea can work with that.
Thank you. I had to laugh when I saw that again because, yeah, it's difficult to stop when you're on the go. This is what it turned out in the end when it was dry. So you can see it actually makes for a very interesting background. And I mean, you can use it for still lives, but you can also use it for a landscape or a portrait in the end. Now, there's 2 longer video clips now that shows a way that I work when I work from photographs. I prefer working from live these days, but I know that a lot of people still work from photographs, and I also work from photographs still. So the next 2 video clips will show a still life that I selected just a few days that I took a photograph of, and how I would typically start off by doing an underpainting and then painting on top of that. Okay, so if you can show the next video, please. Thank you.
I decided to work from a photograph because most of you work from photographs when you paint, and I'm going to show you the way I approach it. I will print it out in a smaller version like this and put it in my sketchbook, then develop a color palette to go with it, and I will even paint out parts of it to get rid of the clutter in the background. If you have a look at this, I mean, I do it with my other paintings as well. This is a portrait of my brother-in-law. Now, it had a very complicated background, which I first tried out a neutral blue and it didn't work. And then on top of that, I tried more of the orange kind of color, and I can see that that could work even better. But I mean, I can still work on top of that, because I try and solve my challenges on a small format where I'm not so precious about it, and that really helps a lot. Since I've been doing that, it works very well. I have a little sketchbook that actually works very well for life, painting from life as well. This is a little beetroot that I set up next to my window, and I first did a little no-tan sketch with kokies, and then at the bottom a color thumbnail of the same scene, and that there I solve some of my problems in color. That helps me with my composition in the end. And the same with this little one here. It was also just a setup with a lot of background noise, and this is just a simplified quick version. It shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes to do. Okay, so now I've decided on this photograph of the daisies, and it's got a very dark background and some clutter here at the bottom here, which I don't want. So I'm going to see if I can make it more interesting than the photograph. Now I did it side size just to make it a little bit easier, and I can already see that it's not perfect, but it doesn't bother me. So I also mixed some of my colors beforehand just to make it a little bit easier. I've used the colors that I've planned in my little sketchbook, and I've got my range of greens here and the range of yellows and whites over here, and then also with my complementary red there. And with these two I'm going to create a background that's neutral and have a variety of temperatures in the background, and hopefully I don't always know if it's going to be successful, but we're going to give it a go and see how it goes. I work thin, so I start off with a little bit of turpentine. I can also use a little bit of my drying medium if I wanted to, and then dip into my colors. And the thing with this is that I don't want it to be too perfect. So for now, I'm actually going to change this one, this picture over here, into black and white. Sometimes I print out the black and white as well, but I like working from the screen because then I also make it as close as possible to the same size, which also helps. Just save a copy there. Just put it in another place. There you are. And then enlarge that, because that will give me an idea of the notan of the flowers. It just makes it so much easier. Now I've got some raw umber there already, and I just want to get some more of that raw umber, a little bit of the red, and just put it in the background already. Now this is thin enough to actually work on top of straight away. And because it's still a little bit damp, it will create a very nice soft transitions where necessary. There it's a bit darker. So already, so you can see I start with the shapes in between the flowers. I also decided to use a white canvas at this stage, because that is also something that you're used to. So let's see how that works. You can see that I don't follow the shapes like that, and I don't do a perfect drawing, and that all of that helps to create lost edges in the end. Because I don't want to straight away start with all the details and then lose the atmosphere of the whole thing. Okay, this bottom, I actually want a little bit more of this red in the bottom. I saw when I did my photograph that the red actually looked quite nice in there. Now the red is muted with the green, so it will definitely go together and harmonize with the rest. Make it a bit more simple, and also vary the strokes a bit when I work. I'm still just working from the black and white now, because it just gives me an idea where the darkest parts are. And I'm not looking at the detail yet. Soften that, and already it's quite nice and colorful. I think by putting the red here, I know I'm going to put some green, blue-green leaves on top there, but that might actually look very nice together. Well, I'm hopeful that it will work. Don't want it too perfect, and I'm always saying that to myself to remind myself, because when you work from photographs, we tend to put in too much detail. We love detail. Okay, now I feel like smudging. I just feel like smudging this a bit so that it's not so white.
I'm actually just going to smudge this in just to soften those edges already. I'm thinking of using this bluey green for that. So you can see the daisies in the shadow there. It's probably going to be like a neutral grey. And when you use the word grey, you know already that there's going to be more blue in the mix. Now, I always tell my students, when you know there's yellow over there, you can't just go with your yellow paint and go on top of that. It won't work because the yellow semi-transparent, so it will show through. You always have to mix yellow with an opaque color if you don't paint it on pure white. Then you have to mix your yellows with an opaque color to actually make it pop forward. I remember doing a workshop with Karen Burns, and we did lemons, and we put the yellow straight on the white canvas, and it was really like singing. It was beautiful. So if you use lemons on, yellow on a white canvas, that's fine. But when you work on top of a color or a toned background like this, you actually really have to mix it with another color to make it work. Now, I'm not sure whether it's going to work, but I'm positive. So let's see. Just see where am I going to start. Because I tend to put in too much detail. When it's done from a photograph, so I'm actually going to really try and not do that. I can always afterwards come and sharpen some of those edges in the end. I'm just changing the temperature of that there, because it's a warmer green over there, and because I've already got a library of colors there, it makes it easier for me to just dip into that and then work with that. Almost like I have to take off my glasses to see whether, yeah, it just takes away all the detail, which helps a lot. You have to be quite brave when you paint. That one is maybe too bright. I'm just going to quickly tone that down a bit. I know I'm going to make my focal point round about there, so the hardest edges is going to be there, so the most detail is going to be there and the most contrast is going to be there, and the rest will have less contrast. Now that is a warm grey over there, and those flowers in this part here is almost part of the background, so they're background flowers, so you can see them as part of the background. And when you think of your painting, I almost want to say you must not think about the background and the middle ground and the foreground as separate. Because when you link them and can go together, you can create a much more pleasing painting in the end. It will harmonize just so much better in the end. It's too fast to put in that kind of detail, so let me not do that. Actually learn. I don't know what happened there. I'm just waiting and see whether we can resume the recording. There's about a minute left of that recording. So just waiting to see whether we should go on to the next recording. Elizabeth? We could actually go to the next recording if that one doesn't want to play.
Okay, my media player is acting up, so let me just try and sort this out.
Okay, no problem. I can also share it from my screen. If you keep on having problems there, then I can share it from my screen. Would you like me to do that? Okay, I'm just waiting a bit to see how that works. Anyway, okay. Yeah, there's not a lot left in that one. Let's see. There's a pot there, but I'm not too bothered about that. Let's see. Yeah, that will work. I can actually switch to the color one here. Just go back. Okay. And let's see if I can move this one across. Okay. That one is also just a simplified version that I've used there, just to take away some of the details. I must be so careful not to put in a lot of the details before the canvas is ready for it. Okay, so let me put in some of the background to show you what I do. Okay, say for instance like in this area over here, I'm going to try and shape that leaf with my background by doing that. Now be careful when you do that it doesn't create like a halo effect. So you know, when I do that, I'm careful to change the direction of my brush stroke over there, and I will also change the color slightly as I go out there. I might want it a bit more neutral over there, and I change the color there, and I can leave some of that background color over there. Okay, just to give you an idea. I like that red that is there, so I'm going to keep that, but just mute it and make it a little bit more to shape the leaf here.
I'm going to move that one up. And what is nice about this is when you find that you haven't got the middle of that one in the right spot, now is the right time to move it. It doesn't matter if you move it now, because there's no perfect drawing there, so it's not going to matter. Now just check the color, it's much cooler. Okay, I like that one color a little bit more. Okay, I need to lift that one up there. So I shape the one with the other. Sometimes I use the background to shape the daisies, and sometimes I use the daisy to shape the plant next to it. So it just depends on where I'm working at. Okay, I like that little bit there, so I'm going to start working there. It's going a lot darker there. Now I've already mixed a nice dark here with my raw umber and ultramarine, and I can add a little bit of red to that as well to give it more depth, and you can see it's actually quite nice and dark there. Never think of a painting of the background like you paint a wall, you know, it's much more subtle than that, and you change the colors all the time as you go along. That one I want to keep soft, so my touch is a lot softer there. And I'm going to leave that soft because it's on the edge of the canvas, and I don't want it to be so bright that it will draw my attention to that. And I'm almost dry brushing that bit there to show some of the background there as well. So I'm going to leave it like that there and develop the painting a little bit further, and then take the next video to show you.
Video is going to be a lot small, a lot less time. So I think it's about 10 minutes, just to show the rest of the process, and then we can have questions and answers.
Okay, I'm going to try and finish this one now and see how far we get. So you actually paint the foreground and the background simultaneously without distinguishing really between the two. You know, and leave some of the edges quite soft, and where you want the emphasis, you define the edges a bit more. I'm going decided that that daisy attracts too much attention, so I changed it. I think it works a lot better that way. This one is also a background kind of daisy, so I'm actually making it a bit darker. And then this one is even more to the back. No? So it becomes part of the background in the end. There's also one at the back there. Okay. Now this one is quite pronounced here, but I'm not sure that it's the right place to have a lot of attention, so I'll just sort of play it down a little bit and maybe shape this one with another leaf there at the back. Okay. I think these shapes can be emphasized a bit more. I'm not sure whether this brush will do what I wanted to do. Slowly building up the contrast a bit. And brighten it up a bit. See, this one actually came to the front as the main character here, but I actually want this one also to, because it's in the right spot for the highlight, to actually also, you know, play that one together with that one. I can pick up that one a little bit and just check that the shapes aren't always perfect ovals, or that one's also just hiding there behind this one. This one can get a bit more attention here, I think. So slowly developing it as you go along. And just to come back to the background, I don't know if you picked it up from the previous DVD, the previous video, is that the background colors are actually a mix of the colors that are in here, and also including the contrasting color of the blue-gray that is there, which is red, the purpley red. So that's why that is in there. Okay, and also the red will neutralize the green a bit, so that it's not an in-your-face kind of green. Okay, this flower can get a bit more attention, I can see. Just don't want to do it just pure white, because then it will really look a bit unnatural. I don't like that color. Let me see if this one looks better. It just needs to be lighter than its surroundings a bit. That's the whole thing. It just needs to be a different temperature in white and a little bit lighter. That color looks a little bit better. from a distance, and also it's not to the tip. See, now that I paint that one over that one, and that one goes to the back, which helps, which then makes it background in the end. I don't know if that works, but let's not worry about it too much. There's another little bit of yellow in there that one can put in there. Also part of the background. You see, if you look at the background as anything that is at the back of the most or the closest object that you have, or object that you have. I can get a bit more attention there. Just going to warm it up a little bit just to see how that looks. There's a little one that catches light there, and this one over here catches a bit of light, and then these ones here, so that it comes a bit more forward. Okay, I don't want to do too much at this stage. I think one gets the idea. Of how you work the background and the foreground at the same time and see it as one. And also that you paint them simultaneously. I think that's the other part of it that is quite important to remember, is that you paint the background and the foreground at the same time, so that it's not an afterthought. Go over that one, then that one becomes background in the end. Okay, I think I'll work a little bit more on them, and just when my concentration is nice and fresh, just finish it off so that you can see what it will look like in the end, and hopefully not overwork it. That one comes on top of this one. Yeah, I didn't plan for this one to be the center, but somehow it wants to be there. So maybe if I do these two, even though this one is not formed perfectly, it can actually work, but I'll see. And this one still needs to go in there a little bit darker. So you push the darks and you pull the lights in the end, and again you form this flower with the background of the other one. I think for now I'm just going to stop there and have a nice look at it from a distance, and then decide where I still want to change things before I totally overwork it. Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay. I don't know if there's anything else that needs to be said about it, but I would welcome some questions. I did not get to the part of the shadows as yet, but I don't mind discussing it. So, so we can actually do some questions now, if that's possible.
Okay, hi. Okay, Sonja, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I've got a few questions here.
Yes.
When you made those prepared boards, you know, before you decided
Yes.
what you were going to, would you be able to do a similar thing with watercolor?
Yes, definitely. And I've actually got some examples to show you. So I can actually share this example. I can just share the screen here. Here you'll see that I've done a similar one in watercolor. And what I did then, I just want to go to the other side now. That's the wrong side. Now I don't know how to get this one out. Just go that side. And then I did the watercolor on top of that. So I saw the one lady that I watched the DVD of. She actually, how do I get out of the screen? You see, I think it was very nice to try and share the screen, but now I don't know how to get out of it. Anyway, so I think it's Jean Haynes. She actually uses it as warm-up exercises to do watercolor splashes on the watercolor. So yes, you can definitely do that.
Okay, and then the other question was the little roller that you used preparing that. What is that? What is it?
The roller is, I think it's well, I don't know what they call it in English, but it's a brayer, I think it's called. But it's used for etching, and you'll find it at all the arts and craft shops.
Roller.
Yeah,
okay.
they actually use it for line and for etchings, yes. So that actually works well. But you can also use sponge rollers, but it won't work with oils, obviously. Sponge rollers using acrylics. Yeah.
All right. And also going back to backgrounds, there's another question just come through. Could you do the similar thing with pastels? Do you think?
Okay. What I understand that you can do, you get a pastel ground that you can put on. So yes, you can color the pastels, and yes, as far as I know, you can do a watercolor background for pastels if it's on a surface that can take pastels. So it has to have some tooth.
Okay.
Do a watercolor background, but then obviously then it will be mixed media. Hey? That I have done before. You know, if a watercolor doesn't work, then I grab my pastels and I work on top of that. So yes, it will definitely work. Yeah.
All right. Okay, that's nice to know. Okay, and then going back to oil paintings, preferences for brushes, canvases, paints that you use. I know we all have our preferences. What do you like?
Oh, I love paint and brushes. Yeah, where other people buy shoes, I buy paints and brushes, especially brushes. I think my new favorite is definitely rosemary. I love rosemary brushes. There are some of the South African brands are really good. I like the Dynasty brushes. I use them often, and they're very affordable. And yeah, I think the Dynasty brushes are one of my favorites, and Daler Round. And even the Artboard equivalent of Daler Round brushes is very good. But my favorite will definitely be rosemary, and Raphael, maybe Da Vinci, but mostly rosemary. I think they clean very well. Now that sounds very weird. The brushes are well made, so it retains its shape. That's one of the things. And I think use the best materials that you can when it comes to paints. I think with brushes, if you are rough with your brushes, I would say it doesn't matter that much. But I like to get to know my brushes and what they can do. So I'm very specific with my brushes, especially with watercolor brushes. You have to buy quality watercolor brushes, well, in my opinion. And they last long. Oil colors, they just retain the shape of the brushes. I clean them well. Paints, I buy Daler-Rowney. When I just illustrations things, I would buy Daler-Rowney. But I love my Mary Bureau. I like Michael Harding a lot. I've used Cennelier, I've used Gamblin. So I would often choose, when I'm in the shop, I would just choose a color that I really like and a brand that I like. So I don't particular in that regard. I don't do real, very cheap paints. I don't like using cheap paints. And then with canvases, like linen canvases, I like cotton duck canvases. I don't use the cheaper brand canvas anymore because I find often when they're not prepared very well, even if you gesso them and camera on top of it, they will still let some oil through. And then I've got a few paintings here that I actually can't sell because the oil is seeped right through. So I'm careful of those canvases. Yeah, I think I can't say I won't ever do it again. As long as I prepare them very well, I think with a proper gesso and a proper primer, then I will still give it a go.
Okay. And do you use any mediums?
Yes, I do. I like liquid of Winsor & Newton, and I use my Mary. I think it's a quick drawing. Let me just have a look. I think just here at the back. So you can see here, it's my Mary drawing medium. So it helps you to outside. It helps to dry your paint a little bit quicker. So yes, I like mediums. And titanium turps, yes. Every now and then I think I'm going to stop using turps. Then I do work with it. So.
Okay. And questions come through about brushes again, rosemary brushes. Which range do you use? Do you like?
The ivory, mostly the ivory. And there's one other one that I've started using. I must just find it.
There's a question here also where to buy the rosemary brushes as well.
From Italian Art Shop. Yeah. If you've got a that comes from England, every now and then you can ask them to bring some as well. So, yeah. But no, they brilliant brushes, really they are. So, but as far as I know, it's only Sky from Italian Art Shop that stock them here. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think so too. Yeah. Okay, and then there aren't questions, but they're comments about from Win Rousseau. Absolutely beautiful, atmospheric painting of Daisy. Sonja, thank you for an inspiring presentation. And from Linda Gottlieb, not a question, but a comment. Sonja, you're a legend. Amazing demo. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You're very kind. I mean, I was so nervous. I said a lot of things that I don't even know what I said, but anyway. But luckily, the videos helps a lot because it's quite difficult to just talk to a screen. It's different to talking to an audience and then talking to a screen. So yeah, very different.
Very weird talking to your computer. But,
I talk to myself, but not to the screen.
Sonja, thank you for all the preparation that we went into this evening. And yeah, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for joining us.
Yeah, I must really also just thank everybody for joining us and for all the help. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.